Okay, welcome everyone to today's webinar on the top 5 ways to enjoy Christmas without the weight gain, hangovers and guilt. It sounds a little bit too good to be true, doesn't it? But we're so excited to be talking to Alexander Mearns, holistic health coach at Levitise. So welcome, Alex. Thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure, Angela.
So Alex, just tell us a little bit about how you became a health coach, because I understand that you spent most of your corporate life in finance, and why you started Levitise in Singapore.
Yeah, well, I was in finance for 20 years, most of that time in Singapore. And it was pretty good time. But it's about 7 years ago, I started having a lot of my own health challenges. I pretty much ignored my health for my entire life, and it's kind of been creeping up on me. So I went to the doctor and I said, ran a bunch of tests and went back a week later for the results, and I said, what's wrong? He says, well, you've got a high BMI, you're overweight, you're pre-diabetic, you've got high cholesterol, you've got high blood pressure. I ran some more functional medical tests and I had 86 food intolerances, bacterial dysbiosis and a fungal overgrowth. So I had quite a lot going on. And, I worked with a lot of doctors and, GPs, endocrinologists, cardiologists to sort of find out what was the root cause of all these problems. And they couldn't really give me any answers. The only answer was just take these statin drugs or take these blood pressure lowering medications, for the rest of your life. So I started researching all this stuff on my own about holistic health, and I was really, really loving it, and I really enjoyed all the work. And I just slowly nursed myself back to good health on my own, without anyone else. But it was a lot of work, and I was spending a lot of time doing the research when I maybe should have been doing other things. But I enjoyed it so much, and I thought it would be really nice if there was like a one-stop shop that I could have gone to get all this help. And there wasn't. So I decided to, quit the finance industry and set up Levitise to help people like me. We wanted to do things naturally and sensibly.
Fantastic. And I guess there's always a strong motivator when you've gone through that journey yourself, right? So tell us what's at Levitise. You've got yourself, obviously, and then you have a team working with you?
Yeah, there's 4 of us. There's myself, and I specialize on the health coaching. My colleague Shivani, who specializes on the emotional stress management and helping people find their mojo. There's Elise there on the call. She's our senior personal trainer and corrective exercise coach. And we have a full spectrum infrared sauna, which is great because it doesn't talk back, it doesn't require a salary, and it helps people detox. So that's really good.
Oh, great. Okay, so I guess the whole purpose of the call today is to find out a little bit more about the tips that you're going to share with people on how we can take better care of our bodies and minds over the Christmas period. And I understand that these tips can be used anytime. It's not just over the Christmas period. But one thing that we said that we weren't going to talk about was just the obvious tips, which were, drink less, reduce your intake of food, exercise more, they're just the given. What Alex is going to discuss today is more unconventional tips that you can use in tandem with what you already know or what you're already doing. So I guess the biggest challenge for a lot of people is with the overindulgence. So what I'd like everyone to do is just on the chat function, could you just tell us what you're a little bit concerned about over Christmas? For me, definitely, it's about overindulging in food, and especially sweet food, which I don't usually eat except for Christmas time. So let's just have a look and see if we're all concerned about the same issues here. Yep, too much sugar and chocolate, it's the same as me, Nadine. Too much alcohol, yep. Good, we're going to touch on that today. Binging on Christmas Day, yep. I think we've all got the same concerns, yeah. Falling out exercise routine. No problem so far. Okay, good, Andrew, that's really good to hear. Okay, so there's sedentary lifestyle with Nadine as well. Okay, so thank you for sharing that. I think what Alex is going to talk about today will touch on a few of those points. We will also go into a Q&A session at the end of our conversation, which if you do have a question for Alex, just pop it into the chat function at the end of the conversation so it doesn't get lost. So Alex, as we said, most people overeat and overdrink during this time. I'm going to tackle probably alcohol first, because obviously that's quite a big one for people. Is there sort of, I guess, other than the obvious, which is reducing the consumption of alcohol, are there better choices in terms of what we can drink so that we don't feel so rubbish the next day with a hangover?
Yeah, and there are, yeah. So let's, my guess would be one of the most popular drinks is wine over Christmas, particularly in our sort of age group. Beer to a certain extent as well, a little bit hard liquor, but I'll focus on wine. So when you drink alcohol, you're poisoning your body, right? You're going to produce acetaldehyde, which your liver is going to detox, and it's incredible work. You're taking your liver to the gym, and it needs to do a really big workout. But when you're also consuming, let's say, commercial wine, for example, you're also consuming all the chemical fertilizers which we use to grow the grapes, all the fungicides on the grapes, the rodenticides, the insecticides, the pesticides and the herbicides. And grapes are absolutely covered in this stuff. Take Bordeaux, for example, which is a very rainy region, and it's very difficult to grow. Sorry for anyone French on the, but it's very difficult to grow Bordeaux grapes without using a lot of fungicides, because funguses and molds just absolutely destroy these crops. So there's a lot of nasties on your wine. Take Moët and Chandon, which is a very popular champagne. Moët and Chandon collect their grapes from 1,000 different producers in France, 1,000 different vineyards. They take all those grapes, all covered in the nastiest, cheapest pesticides you can find, dumped in these massive vats on the outskirts of Paris, these steel vats, and then all sorts of additives and preservatives and flavorings in to get that consistent flavor profile that everyone's used to. It's a really nasty product. So if you want to reduce the work that your liver has to do the next day, and hence you want to reduce the hangover, then choose better quality wine. And for example, organic wines, natural wines, and biodynamic wines. Angela, do you have that slide?
Yeah.
We can throw that up, and then I think you guys will find this pretty interesting.
Can you see it?
Yeah. So if you look at commercial wine, so this was actually done by my friend Romain Cousseau, who runs a business called Cogito Wines. And he translated this from French, or mostly. So all of this stuff on this list is all the nasty stuff you're going to find in wine. So a typical commercial wine will contain everything, the red, the purple, and the green. The organic wines will contain the purple and the greens. The biodynamic, just the greens, and the nature or natural wines don't have any preservatives added at all. So what we always recommend to our clients, if you're going to a restaurant, and you should ask them, do you have any organic wines on the menu, or biodynamic wines, or natural wines? And if you're going to the shops, then you could ask them, do you have organic wines, biodynamic wines, and ask them. And most decent restaurants will have a couple of labels, and most decent wine shop, even Wine Connection actually has quite a few organic wine labels there. For less than $50 in Singapore. For those in the UK, like you, Jonathan, wine in Singapore is really, really expensive. But
I was, in terms of that, then, are there sort of any particular brands that you can recommend to people? So, because if we go to a restaurant and we ask and they don't know, is there something that we can purchase ourselves?
So if you've got a decent sommelier there, he will know. But if not, it's really hard to look at the menu, particularly looking at European wines, to know what better quality wines are. Okay. Australia is a little bit easier because they tend to label it on the back of the bottle, Australia and New Zealand wines. And New World wines, they would have the symbol on the back. So in Europe, it's the organic leaf with the stars around it. America is USDA, but I rarely drink California wine. So, and I'm not sure what's the symbol for Australia, but it's the same organic one they use on Australian food.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one thing you can do. And the small producers would tend to produce the better quality wine. So the big producers in Australia, like Jacobs Creek and Wolf Blass, these are going to have a lot of nasties on the wine. But the smaller producers from places like Hunter Valley, Mornington Peninsula, Margaret River, these are going to have more likely to have your organic and biodynamic wines.
And what about beers then? If you're, in terms of wine, we can select the organic or biodynamic, but what about beers? Is there options?
So likewise the same. So, you just think about it really from a common sense perspective. If you're drinking 8 cans of Tiger or 8 cans of Heineken, again, there's so much preservatives and formaldehydes. They've used really cheap, low quality grain to make the beer, and the grain itself will be covered in all sorts of molds and funguses and toxins. It's kept for a long time in an aluminium can, so the aluminium will leach into the beer as well. So you're going to be taking a lot of nasties in. So the difference, the better choice would be, drinking craft beers, drinking beer out of a wooden cask, drinking, again, beers from small producers. If you can get organic, even better. I mean, certainly when I go back to Gloucestershire, a lot of the pubs have organic beers now on tap, which is great. The difference between drinking sort of an organic beer that is unpasteurized as well, because when it's unpasteurized, it's still got the enzymes and the bacteria in it, which are actually quite friendly. And there's a lot of healthy B vitamins in beer, but you're going to find none of that in a can of Heineken. So the difference is waking up in the morning and feeling like a little bit dull, a little bit lethargic, or waking up in the morning and feeling like you've been poisoned.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, because I think, obviously it's been a really tough year for most people. And I suspect, like a lot of people, including myself, no judgment here at all, we all want to let our hair down over Christmas and have a few drinks. So let's just say hypothetically we do have a hangover. What are some of the healthiest ways in terms for our body to get rid of the hangover? Or, any tips that you can give in terms of, other than drinking these organic wines and beers, what are some of the other tips that you can give to reduce the feeling of how bad your hangover will be the next day?
Yeah, so we can kind of split this up into sort of 4 sections: what you can do before drinking, during, after, and then the next day.
Yeah, okay.
So before, the first thing you want to do before drinking any alcohol is eat big and eat a lot. It's an old wives' tale, but you want to line your stomach. You want to protect your stomach. So we prevent, alcohol is quite toxic on the stomach lining. It's like slashing a knife on your skin, but you're doing it internally in your gut. So it creates what people call in our industry a leaky gut. And so you want to line your stomach to protect it, preferably with something fatty. So my grandmother would always recommend to her husband, my grandfather, drink a pint of milk before you go to the pub. But cheese, cold meats, a steak, things like that, it's going to be really beneficial because it's going to digest slowly. So it's going to line your gastrointestinal tract. So it'll slow down the absorption. That way, you're taking your liver for a jog rather than forcing it into a sprint immediately. If you don't eat anything, you're just dumping poison in your body, and immediately your liver's going to go, oh my God, there's so much work we've got to do, right? So you're slowing that down. And if you think about like a lot of cultures in Europe, they're always eating when they're drinking. You think of the French who are drinking like having cheese and saucisson, fromage with their. Go to Japan, they wouldn't ever drink without eating. And I remember when I first went to Japan on business, and we'd been eating and drinking, and then right at the end of the night, they said, "Oh, Alex, we're going to go to this pub. Do you want to come for another drink?" I was like, "Oh, okay, why not?" It was midnight, and what do they want? I'll just have a beer. That'd be great, thanks. And they brought me a beer, and next to the beer, I got a huge bowl of noodles, which I didn't ask for, because the Japanese would not drink without eating. It makes sense. So that's during, that's before eat big, and then during, and this is a common one, but drinking a lot of water is obviously really, really helpful. It takes 3 units of water to dilute 1 unit of alcohol to flush through your system. If you don't drink a lot I'm sure you've all heard that before, and everyone says drink a lot of water. But if you don't drink a lot of water, your body will take water from other parts of your body in to help flush through the alcohol through your liver and your kidneys. And it might take it, for example, from the spongy discs in your vertebrae. So you've got like 23 presacral vertebrae, and each one has a spongy disc in it, which has loads and loads of water in it. And your body loves getting water from those discs when it needs to hydrate, because that's really good quality water and it will help flush everything through. But then you wake up in the morning, you wonder why you've got a sore back, because all those discs have been compressed because they've been dehydrated. And of course, when your brain gets dehydrated, it actually swells up and pushes against the side of your skull and gives you a headache, and you lose a lot of electrolytes as well, which means it's not so easy to send nerve impulses and information around your body. So that's why everything takes 10 times longer when you've got a hangover, because you're just not getting the information to where it needs to be.
Can I just touch on that?
Yeah.
Because obviously, I would say for a lot of people, they know, I did a post on it yesterday about drinking loads of water and taking electrolytes. Now, electrolytes, people also drink Pocari Sweat, or they do the rehydration salts from the chemist. What's your take on electrolytes? Are they all equally as good for your body, or are there some that are better than others?
Yeah, well, there's 5 different electrolytes: calcium, magnesium, sodium chloride. I forget the other one, but basically
potassium.
Yeah, potassium. Yeah, they basically conduct electricity, right? They're minerals that conduct electricity, and when your liver is processing that acetaldehyde, the toxins from the alcohol, they require a lot of electrolytes, magnesium, to get everything through and out of the body. So you lose a lot of electrolytes. So it's really helpful to repopulate with electrolytes. But the best way to get electrolytes is from natural sources, and the 2 best would be Celtic sea salt, and if you're in Asia, coconut water for the potassium. So mixing that together is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, you can drink Pocari Sweat, but you're not going to get, in Celtic sea salt, you've got 80 different trace minerals. In Pocari Sweat, you're just going to get a couple of electrolytes. And normally those sachets they give you at the doctors when you've got sort of diarrhea and things, it's just salt and glucose, basically. Actually, it's not salt and glucose, it's sodium chloride and glucose. So, yeah.
And that doesn't have the same effect as using the Celtic sea salt?
Well, no, because you're going to create an imbalance, right? So Celtic sea salt contains sodium and potassium in exactly the same ratio that it is found in the human body. So you're replacing it 1-to-1. But when you're consuming a lot of sodium chloride, which is actually a supplement and not salt at all, it's created in a lab, right? You're actually supplementing with sodium chloride. But if you're not taking in potassium, you're going to create an imbalance. And that's why doctors always look at, one of the standard tests is to look at your sodium and potassium ratio. And often you'll see that imbalanced if people are eating a lot of processed food.
Okay. And then what can we do after? So the morning of the hangover, is there anything that we can do?
Well, I was going to suggest actually, so one thing you can do when you get home is take charcoal pills. So if you go to if you drink a bottle of bleach now and get rushed to the hospital, they will throw charcoal pills down your gullet. That's what they still do in hospitals now. Charcoal is very, very absorbent. It soaks up a lot of positive ions, which are bad, and soaks them up into the charcoal, renders everything inert, so then you can just poop it out later. So it's really, really good. Charcoal is just burnt wood, so it's like so cheap, and you can buy it in I'm sure you can get it in Boots in the UK. In Singapore, you can get it in Guardian, you can get it in Watson. You can get activated charcoal, which is slightly better. It has a larger surface area. But yeah, it's really, really, really good stuff. So I would recommend 4 to 8 of those in the evening, along with, of course, a litre of water. Because even if you think, I don't want to drink a litre of water before bed because then I'm going to wake up and go for a pee in the middle of the night. If you need, if your body needs to detox, it will get the water from somewhere else in your body anyway, and you'll still wake up and go for a pee in the middle of the night. So you might as well, give it some water. And the next day, the electrolytes is going to be great. So water, coconut water, and sea salt. We even had one of our clients ran across the Gobi Desert, 250 kilometers in 5 days. And, she used this strategy to rehydrate, and it worked really well. We got her off all the gel plaques and all the nasties and things like that, and she did it naturally. Isn't that right, Elise? With slices of Iberico ham and stuff.
Oh, fantastic. Because that's a really hard race. It's like a marathon a day and maybe a double on every second day.
It's
really hard.
Crazy. Yeah, she would do a marathon every morning too, but that's not really our typical client, but it was quite fun.
So then, again, day of the hangover, do you recommend eating or not eating?
That's a good question. So, the best thing to do is not to eat at all, actually. Because you're sick, you've been poisoned, you want to heal your body, and you're healing yourself internally. So the best way to heal it internally is not to eat anything. If you do, like I used the analogy before of cutting your arm when you drink alcohol, you can rub a bit of broccoli into that cut, or you can just leave it alone. So and it's the same with your body. But in saying that, you really want to go with your gut instincts, and if your body is driving you and you're craving certain foods, particularly fatty foods like a fry up, then I would respect that desire and I would go for it. Particularly as, saturated fat is what cholesterol is made out of, and LDL cholesterol is what repairs cell membranes. And when you've drunk a lot of alcohol, you will have destroyed a lot of cells, or you would have broken a lot of cells. So you'll need to repair them. So never go for a cholesterol test after if you've got a hangover. That's a really bad idea. But you want your cholesterol to be high because it's helping you, it's healing you.
Yeah. So what are some of the top foods that you would recommend people to eat? You're saying a fry up? It's going to make.
Good quality fats are okay. There's obviously the usuals. Avocados, olive oils, and coconut would be the sort of vegetable-based fats, and then good quality meat. So, lamb and beef that obviously been raised on pasture, only eating grass under the sun, fatty fish from cold waters, wild salmon, wild cod, sardines, mackerel. That's all really great stuff.
Okay. Now, talking about food, again, Christmas is all centered around food. So what's your next tip in terms of how people can try to avoid overeating? Is it even possible?
There's many reasons for overeating. So in order to avoid overeating, we want to sort of knock a few of those reasons on the head. One is that if you skip, breakfast and lunch and your metabolism slows down, once Christmas dinner comes around, you're kind of in starvation mode. So when you eat Christmas dinner, your body's like, oh wow, here comes some food. Well, we haven't had any food in a while, so maybe we'll just store some of this as fat. And then you go into a food coma because your body's decided to store it as fat and not give it to you as energy, because you're in starvation mode. Also, if you do overeat, your metabolism, because it's been taking it easy all day and it hasn't really done anything since the night before, you're not really in a state to digest all that food. So really you want to wake up in the morning and have a good breakfast. Get yourself up and going, get your metabolism working, and then keep it going throughout the day. There is a reason that if you look at bodybuilders, and we don't do any bodybuilding at Levitise, but if you look at them, they're eating 6 to 8 meals a day. They consume a huge amount of calories, and they are very lean. They have to be lean, otherwise they don't win their bodybuilding competitions. And the reason why that is because their body is basically saying, oh, there's food coming into this person, every hour, every 2 hours. So we don't need to hang on to any fat. Fat is just a way of storing energy for when there's a famine, when there's a war, but we don't have those anymore. So keeping your metabolism high is really important. So, I probably, I'm 70 kgs, 5'8", and I'm probably eating 2,500 calories a day. Elise is 5'6", aren't you, Elise? And probably eat about 2,000 plus calories a day as well. And it's just, you just burn it off, but you've got to give yourself the nutrition to get used to it. The other thing is to be, make sure you satisfied all your micronutrient needs. So eating a balanced array of meats and fish and veggies and tubers and things like that, right? So when they've done studies on rats, two different studies, one that shows that rats that have a nutritionally balanced diet, when presented with a bowl of sugar at the end of the day, they don't eat as much as the rats that haven't had the nutritionally balanced diet. And the rats that have eaten throughout the day, again, don't eat as much sugar as the other rats. So basically, when Christmas pudding comes around, if you've eaten well that day, you're less likely to want to binge on that second and third helping, and more likely to just have, one or half a bowl even.
Yeah, because I think that's when you get into a bit of damage. We're saying that if you binge eat, that's when you tend to put on weight, and every year you sort of tend to put on a little bit more weight. So
yeah, I think that's a really important point, and I'll probably, because I don't think many people realize that. So this is the concept of the body fat set point, which has been discussed so well by Stéphane Guyenet, who's a French obesity researcher. He did a book called The Hungry Brain, which is really, really good. And what happens is when you binge eat over the festive period, you go a little bit crazy and you increase your body fat set point, and you might increase it by 500 grams, you might increase it by 1 kilogram. And then in January, let's say you kind of hit hard in the gym and lose a little bit of weight, but actually you haven't decreased your body fat set point. Your weight has come down to here, but your body wants it to be here, and it's going to start throwing all these hurdles at you and destroying your willpower. So come March, it's crept back up again. And now you're 1 kilogram heavier than you were at the beginning of December. And then next Christmas comes around, or the next event, or a holiday, and every year that body fat set point goes up by about 500 grams or a kilogram. And then before you know it, it's 20 years later, and you're sort of, 15 kgs or 10 kgs heavier than you want to be. And it's crept up very slowly over time. And it's, Stéphane Guyenet talks a lot about this, and it's over these festive periods where this would happen. And in our ancestral history, we would have festive periods where we would eat as well, but we would always fast and always go through periods of forced fasting where the food just wasn't available. But we don't do that anymore.
No, I was going to say, so your recommendations would be then just to keep eating throughout the day so that you don't binge eat, and then therefore you don't sort of raise your body's, body
metabolism.
Oh.
Yeah. So for me, what happens, because my metabolism is quite responsive to my diet, if I overeat, I heat up. And that is the quickest way to burn energy. You'll find that if your metabolism is not very responsive, then when you overeat, your body just stores it as fat.
So then most people, I would say, then think that in January they're going to start with their New Year's resolution. How many times do we hear it that people sort of say in Christmas time, we'll deal with it in January? They set these New Year's resolutions that are probably unobtainable and unsustainable. So, what advice would you give for people who are probably going through that? I guess it's a little bit of guilt that they've overindulged over the festive period.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if everyone feels this way, but for me, if I would go through a period of not doing anything and sort of overeating or drinking too much, and then thinking, but it's okay because in January, I'm going to start personal training 3 times a week. I'm going to eat salads and, some sort of very restrictive diet. In the back of the mind, it's going to be gnawing away at you because you think, oh, that's going to be unpleasant. Oh, that's going to require a huge amount of discipline. I'm going to do a January free alcohol. And you can't really enjoy yourself fully in the now because you've got this impending doom coming around the corner. So I think rather than doing that, there's 2 ways. One is to make better choices now. So, that we've discussed already, better quality alcohol, having good breakfast, things like that. And then start today, doing something really, really small straight after this call. Not tomorrow, but straight after this call. Even think about deciding what you want to do right on this call. So for example, if you're planning to do more exercise in January, start doing something now, but make it super easy, so ridiculously easy that you're not going to fail no matter what life throws at you. It could be something like, okay, I'm going to stop catching the escalator and the elevator, and I'm just going to take the stairs. Whenever I'm presented with that choice, I'm going to choose the stairs. It could be just, I'm going to get off the MRT, stop early and walk home at the end of the day. It could be, I'm going to get up and do 5 push-ups next to the bed. That's it. I'm just going to do that for a month. Just a small, tiny thing that is so easy that, you know, you can not fail at. And I'll let you into a little secret. So when I worked with Paul Check in San Diego, and he says, when you're prescribing these, solutions to your clients, ask them how much time they have, and then half it. So if someone says they have 10 minutes available to meditate, then only give them 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's much better to do 5 consistently every day than 10, I didn't do anything, then 10, and I didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's got to be sustainable.
Yeah, so that's it. Just do something really, really small, and then build them up over time. And then forget about the whole concept of New Year's resolutions, and just keep layering on those healthy habits over time, because you never get to perfect health. It's just a journey, right? And we keep layering it in, and as we get healthier and healthier, we start feeling better, we start looking better physically, we start feeling better mentally, and life just gets better and better and better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alex. That's really, really helpful tips. I hope people will take something away from that. We're going to open up now for some Q&A. If you have got a question for Alex, please pop it into the chat function, and we'll do our best now to try and answer it. We have got one here from Andrew, who asked, what is your take on Belgian Trappist beer? Do you have advice on that?
Belgians are some of the people who invented beer, I believe. I'm not so familiar with it. I suspect that you can apply the same rule of thumb as you can to any kind of beer, and that is, if it's mass produced from a large company and sold all around the world, it's going to be pretty nasty. But if it's made by a small group of Belgian monks in a monastery in wooden casks using grain grown around the back of the monastery, it's going to be really good stuff. And again, it will be really high in B vitamins, which are great for fueling happy brain chemicals. If you go to, a shrink, a psychiatrist, or anyone, that they often just give you a bottle of B vitamins, and beer has a lot of those in. So I don't know. So always stick to small local producers, ideally organic.
Okay. Keith's here got a question, actually. It's a very similar question I was going to ask you as well. What's your view on exercising with a hangover? Should I listen to my body and put it off, or should I just go for it? So, what it's like. Yeah,
that's a great question. So sweating is going to be really awesome for the hangover. You have 5 organs of detoxification: your lungs, your bowels, your kidneys, your liver, and your skin. Okay, 5 organs. This is to get rid of toxins out of the body. And the skin is the biggest one. But if you're not sweating, you're not really using it. But if you get very, very sweaty, then that's going to just push toxins out through the skin. It's going to take a huge load off the liver, and you're going to reduce the symptoms of a hangover earlier. So rather than exercising, I would find somewhere that you could get some hot therapy, so saunas, Finnish saunas, Turkish baths, infrared saunas, anything like that's going to be really good. In Singapore, it's pretty easy to get sweaty. You could go for a light jog outside.
You can just stand outside.
Yeah, just stand in the sun. And yeah, exactly. So, if you can go out and get sweaty, then that's going to be really... any kind of demanding exercise, I wouldn't recommend it, because, your body's healing. So it doesn't make sense. And when you exercise, you're breaking down muscle tissue. So you're just going to give the body more work to do. So I wouldn't do a hard run or anything, but if you can get sweaty, rebounding is really good. So like going on a trampoline, that moves your lymphatic fluid, which is one of the ways that removes toxins from the body. I won't go into too much detail on that one, but yeah.
Okay, we have a question.
Does that answer?
Yeah, does that answer it, Keith? Thumbs up. Okay, good. Jonathan's got a question here. How did you turn your health around? What's the single most important thing? Or what was the most important thing?
So I used to work for the British government, so I became disillusioned with governments quite early on in life. And then I worked in finance for a long time, and when I saw, crooks from Goldman Sachs in 2008 going to work for the Treasury and people like that, and not getting arrested for their part in the financial crisis, I became quite disillusioned with finance. And then I thought, with healthcare, I thought, I wonder if it's the same in the medical industry, and maybe they got it wrong as well. So having a healthy mistrust of professionals, I think, has helped fuel my desire to really find out what's going on. So that's what drove me to really look into these issues.
So just doing your own research.
Exactly, yeah. So it's really about taking control. Yeah, that's the single thing. It's taking control. There's 168 hours in the week, and you spend 50, 60 hours a week working. Okay, so in order to take control of your finances, okay, and that's great. So we want to be financially wealthy. But if you spend 0 of those 168 hours taking care of your health, and then you're always going to be fearing those doctor's visits and going to the doctor. Oh, I don't know what's going to happen on the test results. You don't have control over your health. You've outsourced it. And then he's going to run a few tests, and then a 15-minute conversation, he's going to give you a list of drugs, which are not going to, sort out the root cause of the problems. So I would say, start taking control. That's really what it was. And then the universe will guide you to the right solutions for you, whether it's diet or exercise or some breath work or whatever, meditation. Yeah.
Okay. Does that answer it, Jonathan? Thumbs up. Great. I think one of the earlier concerns was people, at this time, people take a bit of leave and they probably sit around watching a little bit more Netflix, eating a mince pie. So what's your tip on that? Would that just be, as you said before, just start today, just go for a brisk walk, nothing too strenuous, but just try and get some movement into your day so that you don't drop out of an exercise routine if you're used to that?
Yeah. The issue is with sedentariness is that the more you do it, the more you want to do it. So that the less you move, the more your body doesn't want to move. So the more you sit around, the more you continually want to sit around, and you just move further and further away from where you want to be. And then as you increase the amount of sedentariness in your life, then as the physical body kind of doesn't get the movement, then the mind starts to deteriorate as well. We have to move. So I would just do the absolute minimum you can just to move. The minimum for me would be to have a standing desk, because when you have a standing desk, you don't actually stand perfectly still. You're kind of shuffling. You're adjusting your feet a little bit, your hips a little bit. You're always shuffling, but you don't actually feel like you've done any work at all. But that's much better. But when you're sitting, you really are kind of stationary from the sort of chest down. So standing desk, I would say, is the easiest thing you can do. The next easiest thing would be walking, introducing a good walk. And it's nothing better to wake up in the morning, first thing in the day, go for a walk, and then have breakfast afterwards. But don't be too aggressive, right? If you think, I've got 30 minutes, then just say, okay, I'll go out for 15 minutes. Yeah, but just look for excuses to move.
Yeah.
Just like, look for excuses to move. You should look for excuses to eat good quality food. If there's 2 restaurants next to each other, one is organic and one isn't, and they're both selling the same food, it would make sense to go to the organic restaurant. So always look for excuses to make better choices, as long as, and they can be good.
So are there any other questions for Alex at all from the audience? Just pop it into the chat function. I'm just going to share a screen with everyone, just in regards to where you can find some of these suppliers of the organic and natural food. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
That looks
Okay.
good.
So here are just some suppliers of wine and, organic restaurants in Singapore. Some of the vineyards or the brands in different countries that you can have a look at. And we'll share this after with everyone as well.
Yeah, I got this one from Vintage Roots. This is the one I recommend in the UK. They send it all the way to me in Singapore. It's great.
Sorry, so I just had that on.
So that would be for Jonathan, and is Keith still on the call?
Yeah.
Oh, Keith, yeah, there you are, yeah. So you're in the UK as well, are you, Keith? Yeah, there is a great company. It's all organic, biodynamic wines, and the prices are, compared to Singapore, it's ridiculous. It's like £5.99.
Don't tell us, Alex. Don't tell us.
£5.99. You cannot get you cannot get a bottle of wine for £5.99. That's
not even sure you can get a pint of beer in Singapore.
That's about $8 or $9. Yeah, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We'll enjoy it over here and think of you too. Well, all of you.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Jonathan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today's call. If you would like to reach out to us, I'm going to share the slides with you afterwards. But we want to wish everyone a great Thursday and happy Christmas, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. Take Alex's tips on board, and I'm sure you'll all come out looking or feeling better afterwards too. Thank you, Alex.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Angela, for the great questions.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.